Now, a couple of people in this show already came up to me. We had the episode about 2 weeks ago with me and my wife up on Poigan. Anybody see that show up there? That was a very typical spring event that not a lot of walleye anglers fish. And what it was is a situation where the walleyes, after spawn, go out and they find their next place to eat. That statement right there, by the way, is kind of contrary to what a lot of people think. Many people think when walleyes spawn, especially the females, are so tired and so worn out that they go somewhere, and nobody really knows where, and they rest. They rest for 2 whole weeks until finally the walleyes show up where they're supposed to be out on the breaks and stuff. But for 2 or 3 weeks there, that is post-spawn, you might as well not even fish. Well, I can tell you one thing for sure. Those fish do not rest. They just got done doing the hardest thing they got to do all year, spawning, the spawning activity, and getting rid of all the males that are around them and all that kind of stuff. And the last thing they want to do is take 2 weeks off and not eat. They want to go right away and eat, but where they go many times, and this is true down in Winnebago and the upper lakes of Poigan, it's true out here on the bay, all right, anywhere the rivers come out. What the walleyes typically do is stay very, very shallow, and they spread out on shallow flats or or gradual shoreline tapers. How shallow? Again, 6, 7 feet and less. Okay, so again, it's an area that a lot of anglers don't look at. The second thing is like I said, these are typically flats areas or big areas. So it's not something where I can take and cast a crankbait and find these fish. They typically are not congregated anymore. They're typically spread out. So instead of casting for them or pitching for them or even dragging and drifting through them, what you should be doing is trolling for them. One of the first shows we did on the Next Bite was up here out of Oconto. And it was, again, a very early season. I think it was late April thing that we went up there. And we were fishing 4 to 6 feet of water just on the shallow breaks coming outside of any of the rivers up there. The Peshtigo, the Oconto River, up by Marinette, any of those rivers will have these fish outside of them. So the fish will come out of the rivers after spawn, they'll go out in these flats areas and they'll set up, and you've got to now troll for them to catch them. What we are typically going to troll, this is, by the way, the new saying on the tournament trails, he with the longest rods win. So I typically win. No, this is just a rod I happen to bring along. Like I said, I usually do a PowerPoint, but this is a rod we actually use a lot for trolling. And so I'll use this to kind of demonstrate my thing here. What we're going to troll with early in the season is going to be a spinner rig. Just your typical night crawler harness. Typically you have a little bit smaller blade than usual because what we're going to try and do is fish this very close to the bottom. Well, that's easy to say because we're only in 4 feet of water, so pretty much everything is close to the bottom, right? So again, 4 feet of water, right? This much. All right, think of your boat sitting in there and your kicker engine. Many times when I'm doing this, my kicker will be kicking up mud. That's how shallow we are. Or if I throw down my front trolling motor and let it pull us, it will be spinning up mud at times. So you are very, very shallow fishing. Now, when you start fishing this, you're going to fish with inline planer boards. All right, so we're going to let our spinner rig out. We're going to attach a planer board. We're going to let it go out to the side. Because I'm very, very shallow. If I just fish right under the boat or right behind the boat, you're spooking all those fish. Those fish aren't going to sit in 4 feet of water right under your boat. Fish are afraid of bigger fish. Okay? Bigger fish can eat smaller fish. So a walleye, an 18-inch walleye, if it feels a 21-foot fish coming, it's probably going to move out of the way. All right? If it feels your 16-foot fish, it's going to move. So we got to fish out to the side. So you can use planer boards or you can use a long rod in your rod holder and spread it out to the side. But always get your lures out to the side for this. Now I'm going to use 2 different techniques to get this spinner down close to the bottom. The first one is a bottom bouncer. This is a little bit bigger bottom bouncer than I'd use for this. I would use a 1/2 ounce bottom bouncer. So very, very light bottom bouncer. The reason I use that is because there's a real simple formula for how much line you let out. If you're using a 1/2 ounce bottom bouncer and you're trolling at 0.8 to 1 mile an hour, so very slow trolling, then you let out double the depth of the water to your bottom bouncer. So if I'm in that 4 feet of water, I let out 8 feet of line, I connect on my board, and I slide it out to the side. If I'm in 6 feet of water, I let out 12 feet of line, hitch up my board, slide it out to the side. So it's a real easy formula with a 1/2 ounce bottom bouncer going 0.8 miles an hour. All right, and it's spread out to the side. The other thing I will use, and I don't have this connected up, is instead of this bottom bouncer, I might just run a split shot. And I run I believe it's can't remember the number. It's the size of an 1/8 ounce jig. Probably like a number 2, I think it is. Split shot. About the size of an 1/8 ounce jig on here, no bottom bouncer, your spinner running behind. Then if you have that on there, that 1/8 ounce jig, 1/8 ounce split shot, you let out 4 times the amount of depth. So in that 4 feet of water, you're going to let out 16 feet of line, connect on your board, slide it out to the side. So it's just 2 different weighting methods, and both will work. The beauty is you can fish this in 3 feet of water, you can fish this in 6, 7 feet of water. Now, if you get out deeper, like if you start fishing in June and July on the bay here, the fish slide out deeper, then you'd either use a bottom bouncer or like a fish weight, some heavier weight to get your thing down. But in shallow water, 1/2 ounce bottom bouncers are split shots. The spinner I'm going to run behind here is typically a little bit smaller bladed than other times of year. The reason is you can't use a real heavy blade or a real big blade because it'll bring your crawler down and start banging on the bottom. Whether you fish down in Winnebago or up in the bay here, you know we got zebra mussels. Your lure hits the bottom too many times, it's going to scuff up your snell, and it's going to grab a bunch of zebra mussels on your hooks. So you don't want that to happen. So you want to use a fairly light blade. Then you're going to put some kind of either beads, or I use a blade spacer, just a little body in there, neutral buoyant, to separate it away from your hooks. Now, I have a 2-hook crawler harness here in my hand. This is actually one I had pre-tied. I didn't have time to tap another one. This one is made for more open water fishing, like summertime. This time of year, early, I'm going to have 2 single hooks. The one towards the nose of the crawler is going to be colored, typically red. The one back here is going to be bronze or black nickel. The reason is I don't want the fish to see the one down here. This one down here is the one that's going to go in the tail of the crawler. Maybe I can hook one up here, if I got one. Okay, so I'm going to take a crawler and I'm going to put my front hook just barely through the nose, just right sideways through the nose. And then the second hook down here, I'm going to kind of go into the collar. And again, if I was fishing early in the year close to the bottom, it'd be 2 single hooks. All right, but this one back here, I want to stay with black nickel or bronze because I don't want the fish to see that. I don't want them biting towards the tail of the crawler. This one up here, I use a colored hook because I want them biting towards the nose. You know, I want them to see that red hook. So that's why I put the colored hook up here. But basically, this is just going to run through the water and that blade's going to spin. Now, the key part of a spinner, any time of the year that you fish, is going to be figuring out what vibration draws these fish in. The first thing that will draw a fish to your spinner is vibration. Not color, okay, but vibration. So I use a little plastic quick change clevis on there, and I switch size and size and shape of the blade. Size and shape, because every time you switch the size or the shape, the vibration it throws off is going to be different. And one of those vibrations hopefully will be the one that gets the walleyes excited. Oh, that sounds like something I should eat. And they swim towards the vibration. And when they get there, hopefully you got a nice pretty color that they like, and a nice crawler that they like, or a nice colored hook that they like, something that they like that they actually bite. They don't bite the vibration, but when they get there, they bite the lure. So color is real important. Things like that are very important. But again, that vibration is the most important thing. So play around with that first. Then once you get the right shape and size of blade, then try all the different colors to get the best color. All right, very, very important. I just hear too much people saying, what's the hot color? If I'm asking people about a blade, I'm asking what blade and what size, because that's what's going to trigger those fish first. I can figure out the color. You know, we can fish 3 lines each in Wisconsin. I've got 3 kids for one specific reason, to run 12 lines, right? I can figure out color.